President Trump expanded the list of countries he's happy to bomb with a rocket attack upon Nigeria this week, apparently targeting ISIS-affiliated terrorists in the northwest of the country. Trump has long insisted that a war is being waged in Nigeria by Islamists against primarily Christians, but also moderate Muslims, something which the West, the Western media, and indeed the Nigerian government continues to deny. The Nigerians say it's simply farmers versus herders, yet you look at the statistics and it is hard to escape the notion that it's increasingly Christians being targeted. 125,000 murdered since 2009 and 10,000 of them in the last 2 years. Where, you may think, are the marches and protests? Joining me is Tiffany Barrans from the Christian charity Open Doors, which works in Nigeria among other places. Tiffany, thanks so much for joining me. A pleasure to have you. Happy Christmas, by the way.
Happy Christmas. It's great to be with you.
There is a certain religious element which has grown and grown here, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that we want to oversimplify the situation, if I'm honest. And unfortunately, what's happening in Nigeria isn't a single conflict. It's not a single cause of why things are happening, but to deny that religion is one of those causes that is at the root of this violence actually means that our solution isn't going to be shaped to the problem.
Oh, right. So you think that for various reasons we have been reluctant to say that there is a religious element to this?
Definitely. I think both media and the Nigerian government have been reluctant to recognize the religious element. I think that for the most part, it's been taken as a singular conflict, especially as the Nigerian government discusses what's happening inside Nigeria. But the reality is it's significantly more complex than that. So take, for instance, where the bombing happened recently. That's the Northwest region. That area is known for its criminal gangs, its kidnapping. But if you track over the last few years, it's not just about kidnapping for ransom. Increasingly, those kidnapping gangs are connected to jihadist groups, to both ISIS, to also the Al-Qaeda linked groups that are coming across the Niger border and pushing down further south. But in the Northeast, you have a situation where Boko Haram and ISWAP have existed and targeted Christians, and as you said, Muslims who aren't as radical as they want them to be. And then, of course, the center of the country, that middle belt region, which is often just called a herder-farmer clash. The locals say that's probably one of the most insulting things that could be. That's where the majority of Christians are targeted and where we're seeing increasingly some of the Fulani militant gangs. Not all Fulani are militant, but those that are actively committing violence are themselves showing significant jihadist tendencies.
And this is a consequence, presumably, of Nigeria being divided between Muslim and Christian communities, and a considerable growth, far larger growth in the Muslim community over the last 10 years, but also the last 40 years, than there has been amongst the Christians.
Definitely, you see the population very much divided between North and South, but it doesn't mean that Muslims and Christians and African traditional religionists they've lived together, a lot of them, in peace. So recently I was with a researcher who lives in the center of Nigeria, Plateau State to be particular, and he said, you know, when I speak to the Christians who have been targeted, 65% of them said that they lived in peace with their Muslim neighbors, predominantly the Fulani, who eventually then turned to attack them. So this isn't such, even though there are a division by North and South predominantly, we have seen peace among the Muslims and the Christians for years. But that is starting to degrade, unfortunately, in a number of places because of the jihadists who are coming in with a radical ideology.
But that radical ideology has spread throughout the Islamic world, hasn't it? I mean, we've seen it, obviously, in Syria and Iraq. We've seen it in Afghanistan. And we see it within our own countries here, in the United Kingdom, in France, in Germany, in Belgium. I suppose you date it back to 1979 and the Shah of Iran being overthrown and the Islamic Revolution. It's not going to get better anytime soon, is it?
I think the reality is that I'd love to see a reform within the Muslim community. And there are a number of really peace-loving Muslims who look at the Quran and look at other things to try to work from the inside. But so many of these Muslims, as I said, have lived in peace with their neighbors inside the Sahel. And that's what they want. When I was in a neighboring country to Nigeria, Burkina Faso, which is also facing tremendous extremist violence and terrorist groups right now, it was the same. They wanted to make sure that they lived in harmony with their Muslim brother and sister. And the reality is the conflict in this region is not going to go away on its own. It is going to require Christian leaders, Muslim leaders, government leaders, journalists to look at this deeply and stand together to see that something is done. Not just the military operations we've been seeing, but something that also addresses communal grievances, that addresses some of the other root causes of why peace isn't there, and addresses, if I'm honest, still that interfaith dialogue that is needed.
The United States carried out a strike against Islamic State militants in northwest Nigeria. A Pentagon video showed a missile launched from a warship, but Reuters was not able to independently verify the location or the date when the video was filmed. President Donald Trump announced the strike on Christmas Day, saying in a post that the militants had been targeting Christians at what he called levels not seen for centuries. The U.S. military's Africa Command said the strike hit ISIS camps in Sokoto State, killing multiple fighters. An earlier statement posted by the command on X said the strike had been conducted at the request of Nigerian authorities, but that statement was later removed. This comes months after Trump began warning in October that Christianity faces a, quote, existential threat in Nigeria. He also threatened to militarily intervene over what he says is its failure to stop violence targeting Christian communities. Nigeria's foreign ministry said the operation was part of ongoing security cooperation involving intelligence sharing and precision airstrikes. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth thanked Nigeria for its support, adding, quote, more to come. The strike follows a suicide bombing in Nigeria's northeast earlier on Thursday that killed at least 5 people. Nigeria says militants target both Muslims and Christians, and that U.S. claims of Christians facing persecution are misrepresentative. In a Christmas message, President Bola Tinubu called for peace and vowed to protect all Nigerians from violence.
Surprise!